We all know them folks are really good at hiding history and rewriting our story. This has happened in African countries, this has happened in Asian countries, this has happened in the United States, in the UK, and I can't help but notice the pattern. They first do the crime. They enslave, they colonize, they hurt, they steal, they loot, and then they claim to be the saviors because they stopped doing it. Now all of a sudden they need a star. And then right after that, they want to tell us that it was not that bad. They want to rewrite our history, close down museums. We can't tell our stories anymore because it's in the past. Move on. This is exactly what is going to happen if people allow for the museums to be shut down. Because what exactly are you shutting down? How about the history and the stories that are preserved and that are there to show the world what the history was and what Black people went through?
What did you think we were before you began to think of us as human beings?
Well, in a way, we thought of you almost as a very superior pet.
Well, I remember quite well how those Polo children used to have to eat. They were fed in boxes and troughs under the house. They were fed cornmeal mush and beans. When this was poured into their box, they would gather around it, the same as we see pigs, horses, and cattle gather around troughs today.
When the Civil War ended in 1865, more than 4 million slaves were set free. By the late 1930s, 100,000 ex-slaves were still alive. In the midst of the Great Depression, the Federal Writers Project hired journalists and writers to travel the country and record the memories of this last generation of African Americans born into bondage. The Library of Congress is home to most of the slave narratives, a multi-volume collection of interviews with former slaves.
So hearing this conversation about the museums should not be there, should be shut down, and why should they be there? It's part of the past that we don't have to revisit, is quite ridiculous. It's nonsensical. This is how they change the narrative. When you have gone through what you went through, when you have victimized a people and put them through hell, how are you now allowed to tell them which story to tell and which stories are important? If it's important to the person that went through what they went through and their ancestors went through what they went through, it's up to them to decide to retell the stories. Who are you to tell them to stop telling those stories? This is what happens in Africa, and it is so bizarre to see it happening in the US, in the land of the free, where democracy thrives, apparently. This honestly is the move that they make and they have been making when it comes to anything that shows them in a bad light, which that's history, that's part of history. Yes, we can agree to move on, but at the end of the day, why would you want to erase the history? Why would you want to act like it never happened? Because it happened. Anyways, fam, let us know down below what your thoughts are about the conversation when it comes to museums in the US. Should they be shut down or what? Let us know down below. I am Wongel Zelalem. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.